Welcome back, beautiful people. Just Chris here today for a solo episode of the Three Amigos podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I wanted to do this episode because a few months ago, there was a story that came out about E3 being dead. Just, it's over. Everybody's favorite summer games, hype fest. Forever over, done, finished, they're not going to do it anymore. And E3, like, during COVID, had kind of started to not happen anymore. Because, like, they weren't doing it in person. And then they did it virtually, I think, in, like, 2021. And then this year they just decided it's over. And Sony hadn't been there for a while, or PlayStation, I guess. And Microsoft had, but Xbox doesn't have any games. And then Nintendo kind of usually prefers to do like their own Nintendo Directs for the big stuff. And Pokemon does their own shows in general, so they're not even like at E3 anymore. So E3 was dead, and I was big sad. I was big sad because we grew up with E3, me and the guys, and we would always get hyped every year, and it was gone. And that felt like a loss. It felt like a loss because that was, another thing from our childhood. And these days, there seem to be a lot of things from our childhood that just are gone now, which makes me big sad. But it came out recently, I think like last couple weeks. E3 is back, baby. E3 is back. They have revived it. 2023, it is coming back officially in person in California, probably. I'm like 99% sure that's where E3 usually is. Wow. So I saw like a couple people on YouTube, like I think Spawnwave put out like something you could vote on that was like, do you think this is a good idea? Or like, are you excited? And it was like mostly, 70-30 people were happy about E3 coming back. I think we have been shown that we desperately need E3 because for a while, last couple of years, I'm not going to lie, I kind of started to feel the other way where it was like, you know what, maybe it's better these companies just kind of give us news when they have it and they don't have to kind of cram everything into one show in June. But as things started to happen the last couple of years, it now feels like these companies need a hard deadline. Look, I don't know for sure if Sony would actually come back because I don't think they will, even though I kind of wish they would. But I think it's going to be good because it's clear that the industry needs some actual date or like range to look to be like, that's when we're going to show stuff off. And to be honest, like, especially the way the world is just on like such an insane 24-hour news cycle, if it's even 24 hours anymore, it's like fucking 5 minutes. And then like, I'll do this. Like, I'll find a story and I'll send it to the guys. And then like 5 minutes later, I'll find another story. And like important shit just gets fucking buried in our conversation. Like, the news cycle is insane these days. But what was great about E3 was that because it was like 5 days long or so, and everybody had like a specific day and an amount of time that they were given to like show stuff off, and they would have like demos and whatnot you could play, and like that's where they announced like new consoles, all that stuff. I think this is a good thing because hopefully this is going to lead to a slightly more like cohesive video game announcement schedule and like trailers and all that kind of stuff. Because over the last couple of years, I'm not going to lie, like certain things would get announced and then just sort of disappear. And then like maybe they would, come back briefly. I don't know. It just sort of feels like there's a lot of stuff that could very easily be forgotten or just like fall by the wayside. Like, I felt this way about two games specifically, which Bayonetta 3, which they showed us, I think, last year, and then it just disappeared. I'm not really sure what's going on there. The other one is Forspoken, which has gotten like, look, again, this is like Sony not being at E3, so like, what's the difference? But Forspoken like got some trailers and some gameplay, but there feels like there hasn't yet been like a big deep dive into a game that up until God of War 3 was announced, like the release date, or God of War 2, but yeah, whatever. The new God of War Ragnarok coming out this year, but that pushed Forspoken because I think those games were like 3 weeks apart in release dates. Sony didn't want to have Forspoken sales fall off because God of War is just going to dominate the industry for the next few months. So Forspoken pushed into January. I think the game looks interesting. I still do not understand what is happening and like what makes the game different and special and the mechanics and all that stuff. Like it looks like a huge open world, but they haven't explained it at all. And the game is supposed to come out in a few months. Like I'm not sure how close to release, if you want to like start hyping stuff up. I feel like Gotham Knights really could have used E3 because that game, well, I'm excited for it because I love Batman and I love the whole Bat universe and like, so do Frankie and Anthony. But look, I'd be lying if I said that game did not need like a solid 20-minute gameplay demo. Like they did one a few years ago, which might have been at E3 to be honest, I'm not sure. But it was like Batgirl and I think Robin, and they showed off like the early stages of a boss fight around Mr. Freeze. It was like 10 minutes. And then they showed like a quick little gameplay thing of Nightwing and Red Hood, and then they've been showing like these little 1-minute trailers for Robin and Nightwing, and I guess Batgirl's coming up next month because they're doing like one a month until the game releases. I don't know how I feel about that marketing strategy. I feel like in order to win people over, because this game will forever exist in the shadow of the Batman Arkham series, whether they like it or not. Look, that company could go out and say, and this is like going to become a Gotham Knights rant, but like Warner Bros. Montreal can go out and say, this is not Batman Arkham. They can say that as much as they want. They know, deep down, in their most private moments, they know that that game is going to be mercilessly compared to the Batman Arkham series. So I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. But an event like E3 and like having a set day, time, like this is when Gotham Knights is going to get its big gameplay show off reveal. Like they're going to talk about other stuff, maybe a little more information on the story, because again, this game comes out in 3 months. They like haven't said much, and not that you don't spoil the whole fucking story, but I'm just saying, like, the game comes out in 3 months and they really haven't showed that much to get people too excited for a game that's supposed to be a pretty open, massive open world, and it's got a bunch of characters that people really like. It seems like that game could have used an E3. And so I think that's sort of what I'm getting at here with, like, there are a lot of games that seem like E3 would have been really good for them. Like, I think Starfield is going to have that issue, which hopefully that game gets delayed past E3 next year so that they can actually show people, what it's about. Because it's like you're in outer space and you're flying to like a bunch of procedurally generated planets. And then there's only actually 4 planets that Bethesda's like actually building out. So don't you want to know a little bit more? Like, I feel like E3 would be big for them. I think Xbox would really benefit from E3 in general, just because like they've been buying all these studios and like hyping up all of these future exclusives and upcoming games, but like that's all they keep doing is like talking about, oh no, it's coming, don't worry, like, oh, in the next 12 months, like 12 months, bro, what are you kidding me? Like, hurry the fuck up. Anyway, I think it's exciting that E3 is coming back. I would love to see the big 3 all join in. I loved it back when they had like their, each one had a separate day, and then there'd be all these videos about like who won E3, like who had the best presentation. Like, look, we joke about console wars, but like some of that stuff's just kind of fun. Like, it's kind of fun to needle the, like, oh, this up at Xbox or PlayStation, blah blah blah. Like, sometimes that stuff's kind of fun. I kind of miss some of the rivalry. Not that you can't, just go out and buy every video game system ever, but sometimes the rivalry is kind of fun during E3. And I think it's good that it's coming back. I definitely shifted back, and I missed E3, especially given that games these days feel like they're just not getting the deep dive that they need to get more of a message out there about what their games are about, what makes them different and special and all that kind of stuff. And I think E3 coming back is going to be really good for a lot of those kinds of games. It's also going to be good just like in terms of announcing stuff, because when stuff gets announced or like, you know, sort of hyped up on social media or whatever, like there's a lot of people who aren't on social media. The odds that most gamers are on social media are probably pretty high, but once you start to get into the more casual gamers, like those odds probably start dipping, or just people paying attention. And like if you're not looking at your phone like all the time, you will miss some of these announcements, and you just won't know like a game got a release date or a game had a trailer drop. Like I even like watched the God of War Ragnarok like special edition unboxing that they did, like showing off all this stuff. I had no idea that there was a trailer released for the game at the same day. Like at the same time, I had no idea. That's one of those things where it's like if God of War was given an actual segment of a presentation at an E3, you wouldn't miss any of that stuff. Or there would be recap videos where they would go over all the stuff that was at the Sony presentation. And I also sort of feel like we're getting hopefully back to a point next year where there will be fewer like pattern delays of like a game gets announced, then gets delayed for 2 months, then gets delayed for 2 months, then get like one delay is not a huge deal. But we've been seeing a lot of the like COVID, like game was going to come out here, never mind 2 months later, never mind 3 months later. And I sort of think that in the next couple of years, hopefully we're going to see less of that. And so E3 is going to become a pretty safe place to like announce or hype up your new game. So that's really all I got for you guys. I'm excited E3 is coming back. Thank you everybody for listening. Solo episode just because I wanted to talk about E3. I'm excited. We'll see you guys. Talk to you guys all on the next one. Peace.